Our sailors, 10 American sailors captured in the custody of our enemy, Iran. Those sailors grabbed by Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces. Now, it all happened when two small U.S. Navy ships with a malfunction drifted into Iranian waters. Iran saying tonight it will release American sailors, but if they say they will, how come they have not? Fox News correspondent Doug McElway joins us. Doug, what's going on?
Well, Greta, a senior defense official tells Fox News that the U.S. Navy riverine vessels, these are small patrol boats, were headed from Kuwait to Bahrain when one of the boats apparently had mechanical issues and ventured into Iranian territorial waters. 10 U.S. sailors are currently being held on Farsi Island, a tiny landmass in the middle of the Persian Gulf, which is controlled by Iran's Revolutionary Guards. Secretary of State John Kerry was informed early today by the Iranian foreign minister that the sailors' safety and well-being was assured and that they would be allowed to continue their journey promptly. It is early in the morning there, though, so it's probably unlikely they'll be released in the next few hours. There are no further details about the timing of their release, if it happens. There was a similar apprehension in 2007 when Iran captured 15 Royal Navy sailors near Iraq and held them for 13 days. But the some of you are applauding the word final. CBS News poll tells the story. Just 27% of Americans believe the USA is heading in the right direction. A whopping 65% say the country is on the wrong track, and that includes 47% of Democrats. This time last year, 38% of Americans felt the country was heading for a good place. 66% dissented. So why the negative change in 12 months? First of all, the ISIS situation remains very intense, and millions of refugees streaming into Europe is a disgrace. None of that should happen. President Obama still has no solution to the jihadist problem. Secondly, American workers are not making enough money to prosper. All these jobs numbers are bogus. It's not the jobs that are out there, it's how much they pay. And working people know employers have the upper hand. Workers have a little bargaining power in this soft economy. CBS also adds about President Obama's job approval rating. 46% approved, 47% disapproved. Time last year, 46% approved, 46% disapproved. Obviously, it will change. The reason President Obama's not doing worse in that category is that many Americans like him personally. They see he's trying. Some of his policies, as you know, are pleasing to the left. On the right, many despise the president. But in the middle, folks seem to know the country's not in a good place. 65% of them do. But they are not, for some reason, holding it against President Obama per se. Finally,
65%. The crash, the collapse, the dive in oil prices from the high set just a year and a half ago. It has been a boon for American drivers, acting like a tax break for American consumers, putting money right in their pockets. But the decline, the force of the decline so far, so fast, has been destabilizing for the rest of the world. Oil producers like Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Russia, Iraq, Nigeria, they have been crushed. Iran, eager to legally sell oil into the market for the first time in ages, it will only add to the supply glut. And now China, the world's second largest economy, the world's largest oil importer, embroiled in market mayhem and serious concerns about how quickly its economy is cooling. That only adds further to the demand side of the equation. Crashing oil prices, a good thing for drivers, a bad thing for world stability.
prices. Now this includes, but is not limited to, food and livestock, water, plants, energy, health resources, transportation, and construction materials, and gives the government the ability to, quote, control the general distribution of any material, including applicable services in the civilian market. Now, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney laughed off a question about the document at today's briefing. Let's take a look. Some online commentary suggests this gives the executive branch power to allocate energy, food, water in either peacetime or wartime. And there are some conservative blogs that are pushing the notion that this suggests the White House is preparing for explain that reaction to it. I think it was a fairly standard and routine piece of business. Not everybody's laughing about this executive order. In fact, some have suggested this would give the President of the United States the authority to declare basically martial law during times of peace. And to be sure, this is simply the latest string of actions taken by the administration that ignore the basic principles of our Constitution. Joining me now in tonight's edition of The Real Obama, Jay Sekulow from the American Center for Law and Justice, and Fox News contributor Lenny Davis. Guys, welcome back. I'm laughing about it, Sean. How are you? All right. Well, let's give a little history here. Jay, we'll start with you because this was actually signed, or similar national defense resources preparedness by Bill Clinton. You have similar executive orders signed by Dwight Eisenhower, George W. Bush.
All these guys are trying to not laugh.
The change in this that I think it has brought, legitimate criticism and concern. Can you go through that? I think you're absolutely right. The idea of this act is nothing new. It's the presidents have had this since the 1950s. But what is different about this one, and different than any of the other one, is the definition of national defense. It's incorporated what's called the Stafford Act. I don't want to get overly technical, but this gives the president much broader authority than any of the previous acts. In fact, and Lenny may remember this, the previous acts didn't give the incorporation of the Stafford Act, which is a civilian civil situation, where the president would have unlimited authority, subject, of course, to checks and balances. We can't ignore checks and balances here. But the definition of national defense is broader than it has ever been under any of these previous executive orders. And I think that's the most significant aspect of this. And by the way, the president's getting flack from the left and the right. The left said this is preparation for the war in Iran. That's why the president's doing this, a potential war with Iran, and the concern about the energy resources of our country. And of course, conservatives are saying this is unchecked power. There's a balance here, but the one thing that's very different, Sean, is the fact that the national defense definition is different than it has ever been and much broader than it's ever been. Lenny, with this very specific section, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, is 801J, if I recall. Right, that's correct. Why would the president change that definition? And Lenny, you're an expert in media. Nobody is as good as you. If you want to release something that you don't want people to find and you're in the White House, when do you release it? Late on a Friday afternoon.